It was December 6th, and the day awoke with a soft dusting of snow, falling so quietly it was as if the sky itself held its breath. Miss Sofie stretches in her grey donut bed, rubbing her nose against her paws. The house smelled of pine, apples, and warm firewood, but beneath that scent hid something else, something cool, something unfamiliar. She stood up and noticed that the key on the table was even smaller than the day before. It glimmered faintly in the morning light, and little beads of melted ice had gathered in a pool beside it. It grows thinner every day, she said softly, as if it's counting time for us. It is, came Wims's sleepy voice as she poked her head out from under her hat, her hair wild and eyes half closed. The key melts so we remember. Time doesn't wait. It reminds us that Christmas must be found before it fades. Miss Sofie nodded. I can feel it. December 6th feels different, like someone's watching. She sniffed the air. There was a scent she couldn't quite place, frost mixed with dust. Not dangerous, but not friendly either. She went to the window and looked out. The snow was untouched, except for a single trail of footprints leading from the forest toward the house. The prints were small, yet deep, and they were not her own. Wimsey, she said slowly. Someone was here last night. Wimsey looked out and nearly dropped her hat. Oh no, those are Shadow's tracks. They won't vanish until someone dares to follow them. Shadow tracks? Miss Sofie tilted her head. How can shadows make footprints? When something dark wants to be found, said Wimsey solemnly, it leaves a mark, not in the earth, but in the soul, and in the snow, if the snow is willing to listen. Miss Sofie gazed out again. The tracks wound toward the forest like tiny marks in an otherwise peaceful world. Fear pricked at her, but so did curiosity. She looped the key around her neck, inhaled deeply, and said, if something is following me, I need to know who and what. You are mad, said Wimsey, chewing on her boots, and that's exactly why I like you. They followed the footprints until the snow. The air was heavy and still. Even the wind seemed to hush. They paced by trees standing like silent guides, and each step gave a muffled sound, as if the snow itself didn't wish to wake that slept beneath it. After a while, Miss Sofie stopped. Look, she said. The tracks go in circles. Wimsey frowned. She was right. The footprints loop in a perfect ring around an old tree whose bark gleamed like silver. This isn't by chance, said Wimsey. Shadow doesn't play. They wait. For us? No, whispered Wimsey. For you. Miss Sofie stepped closer to the tree. She laid a paw against the bark, and then a cold pull ran through her body. It felt as though someone whispered her name, not out loud, but inside her. Sofie. She jerked back. Did you hear that? I only heard silence, said Wimsey, and that's worse. But Miss Sofie knew that she had heard. The voice was familiar, not from now, but from before. Old, warm, softened by time and snow. Wilma? She whispered. At that moment the snow began to move. Tiny flakes lifted from the ground instead of falling, and the air grew darker, thicker. Shadows swept across the snow like living smoke. One of them took a form, long, wavering, with eyes that gleamed like ice. You have returned, said the shadow. The guardian of Christmas did not forget me. Miss Sofie stood still, heart pounding. Who are you? I'm what remained when the light departed, it replied. I'm the echo of the shadow's heart, and you, little dog, stand in my way. Wimsey stepped forward, her head trembling. She doesn't stand in the way. She is the way. The shadow laughed, a sound like cracking frost. Then let's see if the way leads out of the dark. It stretches toward them. Miss Sofie instinctively closed the key. It grew warm against her chest, and a clear light buzzed forth, forcing the shadow to recoil with a hiss. You cannot use it without fear, it whispered before dissolving back into the snow. Silence returned. Only their breathing filled the air. Are you all right? Asked Wimsey. Miss Sofie nodded slowly. I think the shadow knows me, or my grandmother. Wilma, said Wimsey, thinking aloud. Yes, perhaps. She once said, no light can shine without its own shadow. Miss Sofie looked down. The footprints had vanished. When I must learn to walk in mine without getting lost inside it. They began the journey home as twilight filled over the forest. The key shimmered faintly in the fading light. And Miss Sofie felt a new resolve stir in her chest. She wasn't just a little dog in a big world. She was the garden of light, and the shadow have noticed her. When they reached the house, she turned once more to look across the valley. The snow lay peacefully again, but she knew something lingered out there, and she knew it wasn't done with her yet. Let's light the lamps, said Wimsey, closing the door behind them. There's enough darkness in the world already. Miss Sofie watches the fire flicker in the hearth and the key dripping 3 tiny drops. She knew tomorrow would bring new mysteries and perhaps new answers. Curling back into her donut bed, she listened to the wind singing softly outside. Christmas was far from saved, but the light, her light, had awoken. That was the end of the 6th of December. Come back tomorrow and hear about the Bear of Light. Merry Christmas.